Hey everyone, this is a quick viewer requested video about custom lengths of Lego 9-volt track. All I've done here is take some standard lengths that Lego makes, because they only make one size for straights and one size for curves. These 9-volt ones have not been made in many years, but they're still readily available at bricklink.com, and it's what I personally use for powering my trains around my city. And I just took some of these and cut them with a razor saw and put them back together in different lengths to specifically fit certain gaps. The thing is, when you are so limited as you are with official Lego tracks in terms of size and shape that is available to you, it's very difficult to create an organic layout, something that's not very, very rigid in the grid that it follows, of exactly where it turns and how many straights you go, how many turns you go, to make everything fit perfectly to a base plate grid. You end up with all kinds of gaps and overlaps. It's difficult to even get multiple ends of a line to line up, much less actually be at the correct position to connect them safely without any stress whatsoever. So with my most recent layout changes, I did a pretty good job. I did actually a very good job of getting my alignment, my horizontal alignment of ends good, but the lengthwise alignment resulted in some awkward gaps. So I needed to have some custom lengths. It's just so much easier to do straights than it is to do turns. I've done custom length curved stuff, including a switch. The very first one that I did was a switch, which is especially complex. But with these straights, it's super easy. All I did, again, was just cut, and I even cut straight through the thing. Ideally, you would like to cut your track at a different point than you cut the plastic foundation of the whole thing, the sleepers and all, the rail underneath, just to have a little bit more separation between the brakes, so you can have a little bit more strength. But for these straights, there's plenty of material underneath, plenty of hollow to fill up with a filler material. That's very important to preserve some form of strength. So I've just used JB Weld. It's just an epoxy, two-part epoxy, slow curing, but very strong when it's done. This is actually partially filled with metal, tiny metal shavings. This is part of the reason for the dark color, but there are other fillers mixed in with it as well to give it some body, to give it some thickness. And after I had everything lined up, I did use some plates to make sure that the alignment was perfect, and then filled up the undersides under here. Not completely, it doesn't need to be complete. JB Weld's very strong stuff. But the more the merrier, up to a point. If you leave full hollows under there, you can still connect studs under there. I'm not really worried about connecting studs underneath the rails themselves, because I've got all of these sleeper areas to connect to. And then the final, most important step was preserving some form of electrical connectivity from one end of the rail to the other, because these do deliver 9-volt power, up to 9-volt power, to the train motors to make them go. And so it's very important that the electricity be able to actually flow through the whole thing. This is your circuit itself. So to keep the circuit going, I used some wire, just wire. This is just, I want to say this is 18 gauge that I used, 18 or 16 gauge, I forget which it was. Multi-stranded, twisted stranded stuff. I didn't even do the greatest of job here. It was a little bit difficult because I didn't want to heat this up too much. Used a variable temperature soldering iron in order to try to find a good temperature that would prevent the rail, the sleepers and the underlying plastic from melting too much. You can see a little bit of melting did occur in there, but I did keep everything lined up properly. So this just forms a good connection, a good electrical connection. So you don't want to bridge the gaps. No matter what, there will be some form of gap. You don't want to bridge the gaps with solder, however you pronounce it, wherever you live. Where I live, it's pronounced solder, just how it is. You don't want to bridge gaps with solder. It's not the most conductive material out there. It's much better to have physical connection between copper and, well, ideally copper and aluminum, copper and whatever this, I don't know exactly what this is. Bronze, brass. No, I don't know exactly what it is. Some form of alloy that definitely has some copper in it. But as much as possible, you want direct physical connection, and then use the solder just as an adhesive, something to hold it down, something to hold it in place. And I used plenty of the soldering material, and then came back. The reason that you see everything being all shiny the way it is, came back with a file, just a regular file, to make sure that the top was nice and smooth, so that cars going over these junctions will not skip and will not jump a bunch. Probably need to fill this single spot right here in just a little bit more with some solder, and then come back and file it again. But like here, I got a better, that's ideally what you want to see. It should feel completely smooth on the top and on the inside, because that's where the flange on the inside of the rail wheels will ride right along that side, especially as forces push the cars back and forth. So the inside is really, really, really important. And of course the top is, but the outside is not. That doesn't matter at all. Nothing ever touches that. So yeah, that's just it. So I made a few custom lengths here. Not all of them are perfectly clean. It took me entirely too long to do these, and some of the work I did rather late at night when I was rather tired after doing a bunch more work. So it's not my cleanest work ever, but functionally it's going to work just fine. And I'll show you what that looks like with these in place. And again, this was viewer requested. Folks wanted to see how I was going to do this, and so that's that. Let me know if you have any questions, and if you think you know a better way to do it, then by all means do it the better way. This is just how I did it, and it works. I've done it before. Works great for me. Seen other people's work. Used actually the work of other folks as well who did it slightly differently, and that works also. As long as it works for you, that's what matters. Use the appropriate tool for the job, and tools for the job. Be patient, be careful, make sure that you maintain alignment of everything so you don't end up with super warped pieces. And yeah, there's a lot that you can do. Of course, if you only have plastic tracks, you don't have to worry about all this, because you got the little flexible bits that you can use, or you can simply cut and glue, or not even glue, just use plates over the top to connect them. But that's about all I have to show for this one. So thank you for watching. Hope this was a decent demonstration, what people were looking for, and I'll talk to you again soon.